Greetings, Earthlings. Welcome back. I'm Jeremy, and movies are terrible. Joining me on the line is, as always, Caleb Miles of Caleb Says Stuff. What's going on, buddy?
Not much, man. Just got home from work and sitting on my ass. That's all I'm doing.
Well, how you feeling? You doing good?
Yeah, man. Yeah, I've been doing good. You know, living the dream always. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Just kind of going with the flow.
You know, it's fucked up. I was tired of saying, like, living the dream, tired of saying, I don't know. I had a couple, like, go-to, when people are like, what's up? And I was looking them up the other day. I'm going to pull up this list now. Some of them were good. Others of them were garbage.
I say living the dream all the time, and it's totally garbage. Yeah.
Well, there's only so many things you can say because it's a rhetorical question in the first place. You know what I mean?
I have to say, the worst thing you can say is, and we've all encountered this person, hey, man, how's it going today? Oh, well, this happened. My dog died. And you're like, I didn't really actually give a shit.
Shut the fuck up, buddy. Who cares how you're doing?
Yeah. Yeah. You thought I actually cared what I asked you how you were doing? Like, this is just one of those pleasantry things that we all do. It's like well known.
Yeah. Not you guys in the chat. Hope you guys are doing good. If there's anybody in here, I do want to give a special shout out to Venice Beach Sports Network. He has been consistently coming by and just saying what's up, and that is greatly appreciated. I actually saw that you commented earlier in the Screen Junkies News live chat, so that's good shit. I watch that pretty regularly. Do you ever check that show out, Caleb?
I used to. I haven't watched it in a long time.
I like that panel a lot. I used to be into Collider, and it's all shifted around and changed so much since it started that I barely even fucking recognize it anymore. And Screen Junkies has changed in a different way. You know, when they were bought by, I think it was Defy before they were sold just now again to Fandom, but they started really getting into that space of like film journalism, and at first I wasn't really into it, but I kind of started to like Roth Cornett, and then I think that the Honest Trailer dudes are pretty funny, so that's like one of the places I see movie news or hear movie news.
So this is going to be weird as someone who does a movie podcast and stuff and talks movies. I don't watch any movie podcasts or content. Every once in a while I catch Batman on Batman, but that's just Marcus Kevin Smith, not really because we have to say about movies.
Yeah, I get it. And do you feel like that's I kind of already know the answer to this question. That's a pretty good way to like keep objective and not be influenced by what other people are saying.
I agree 100%. So I'm like a big guy who's into video game podcasts. I listen to a ton of video game podcasts. And that's really cool because I still get to see things that I'm sure on a subconscious level are influencing me as far as how I handle myself maybe on a podcast.
Sure.
But without influencing my opinion on film.
I just started watching The Gaming Historian. I saw a couple of his videos over the past week or so. He does some pretty cool content. Yeah, it's neat. It's a lot of retro stuff. It's similar to Angry Video Game Nerd, only a much more straightforward kind of documentary approach to it, but he's got some cool shit, man. Whether it's like he's got like an hour-long one about Tetris, and then he's got one about the Super Mario Brothers movie, and those are the only two I watch, but I dig it.
I love stuff like that. I like stuff sometimes that's a little more serious and informative. It's kind of like that, have you watched the show The Toys That Made Us yet?
I watched the first episode, the Star Wars episode.
Yeah, that episode's garbage. It's the worst one.
Really?
Yeah, the Barbie one's phenomenal. It's fascinating.
I'm into it. I don't think I can sell Victoria on it because the toys didn't make her. Like, she wasn't playing with that shit growing up, so there's no context.
I was going to say, my wife loves it, and she has no idea what any of these toys are.
Oh, well, see, then maybe I can sell her on that.
Well, because if she has just, like, it's drama. It's, like, a lot of times, like, corporate espionage and, like, stealing ideas and doing shady shit to bring these toys out. And that part of it's just kind of fascinating.
So, we got some fun topics to discuss with you guys tonight. As always, we're going to start off with a section called What Are You Watching? Which we're kind of dipping our toes in that right now. Then we're going to move on to Headlines Head First, where we talk about some of the anti-news headlines that came out of the world of Hollywood this week. Then we're going to discuss the weekly topic, which this week happens to be some of the most effective jump scares of all times, at least some of the ones that stuck with us. And kind of to touch on the toys that made us, we're actually going to be talking about a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle fan film, very small in scope. I didn't realize it. I actually saw the headline on Bloody Disgusting, but it's a Rocksteady and Bebop movie, so kind of excited to jump into that because Caleb has very, very strong feelings towards the original Ninja Turtles cartoon.
I do. I have a little bit of strong feelings toward all of it. As a guy with a Ninja Turtle sleeve, I probably should.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're not going to bury the lead. We're going to go ahead and jump into the "What are you watching?" section. So, Caleb, what are you watching, man?
So, something that I did finally see that we talked briefly about. I finally saw Christopher Robin.
Okay.
Absolutely fucking loved it.
Good.
I was blown away by it. It is a kid's film, which I was expecting. But like I said last time, Pooh is one of the only Disney characters that I actually really truly enjoy. I think he's hilarious in it, and I thought he was hilarious in this. I thought the message was kind of interesting. It was like, don't let life get ahead of you. Take time for the small things. There's things I necessarily wasn't sure what I felt about, but I don't really want to say them because it's kind of a spoiler. But about the Pooh lore that it changed, that I thought were kind of interesting. But overall, I thought it was a phenomenal film.
I agree with you that anytime Pooh was on the screen, he was fantastic. I love the fact that Jim Cummins is still voicing these characters, and I thought they did a great job with Tigger as well. I like the designs of them and everything. I'm kind of curious too. Do you feel like the essence of Winnie the Pooh remains intact when the original series was so, I don't want to say mundane, but there wasn't this strong narrative push in it. It was a very leisurely paced thing that was just like day-to-day adventures. And in the movie, I felt like it kind of went the Hook route with this jaded Christopher Robin. Just it felt I don't want to say weird, but it felt different to me.
I agree with that. That's kind of what I enjoyed about it. I felt like this was a more adult take on Pooh. I thought it served very interesting for him being literally an adult, and then I felt like it was a more adult take on him.
Sure.
First of all, it was beautifully shot. It was like some of the cinematography I was blown away by. I was like, why is this movie shot so well? It was kind of shot like an indie film, and it kind of was surprising to me. But no, I actually liked it. Now, I do agree there is more, I would say, an overarching plot, which is left out from the original. But to me, that's kind of the brilliance of it, because when you're a child, there is no overarching plot. Your life's made up of all these small moments that are mundane, I would say, almost not connected. And when you're adult, connections become stronger in day-to-day life. And as time travels faster, it seems like there is more of an overarching narrative to your life, and I thought that was kind of an interesting take on it.
Yeah, I like that. I didn't approach it that way, but that's definitely valid. The last time you and I talked, I believe it was the last time you and I talked, you mentioned the Joe Rogan Experience with Alex Jones. It's a 2-hour and 45-minute fucking podcast. I watched the whole thing. And it is fantastic. It is one of the most fascinating fucking podcasts I've ever seen.
I told you, it's brilliant. He's absolutely insane, but
he's
it's
absolutely
brilliant.
insane. And what happens is, we do live in a very binary world, a very binary society, and I was kind of informed in my perspective. I gotta be careful saying this because people are gonna fucking take this the wrong way, but my interpretation of Alex Jones was filled in or informed by what I heard in the media. And the media would have you believe that he is just an absolute madman and that everything he says is like the most destructive thing to society. Now, granted, the Joe Rogan Experience episode took place before the Sandy Hook shootings, when he started talking about crisis actors, and a lot of things have changed since then. But what I was fascinated about is how he is able to put you into a true scenario where you're like, all right, I'm kind of digging this, and then he will just throw so many things at the wall that it's hard to imagine all of it sticking. But there is some value to what he's saying, but he takes that and then conflates it into something that is so over the top that it's hard to fathom.
I agree, but that's kind of why I love Joe Rogan Experience in general. I would recommend watching it with a lot of people because he'll get on a lot of controversial people. Even like Milo Yiannopoulos when he was on there, that was my first real exposure to him. I'd heard all these horrible things, and I watched it, and there's some things obviously that he says where I was like, wow, yeah, that's not really something I agree with. But it's almost as if people are nuanced and
yes.
deep and complex.
Yes, that's a really good point. That's what I agree. There's nuance to like nobody is just one thing, and they're ultimately they're all fucking human beings, like you said. So there's a complexity, And I think that's something that's currently missing from our culture is letting people talk and instead of just putting them into a 10-second soundbite. I think sitting down and listening to someone talk for 3 hours, you will get a better perspective of where they land on things. A lot of my exposure to some people that I actually enjoy, I've come off of there. Like someone that I am become a fan of is Ben Shapiro. And I heard like all these horrible things and sound bites of Ben Shapiro. And I don't agree with everything he says, but sitting down and watching him on Joe Rogan, I was like, oh no, he's a decent human being. I mean, I'd agree with every word that comes out of his mouth, but I there are aspects of it which led me to the path of like listening to some of his stuff, and it's like shocking when you listen to hours and hours of somebody speak, you realize there are complexities, there are hypocrisies, there are nuance to every person, and I think that's what we need to realize more. Yeah, man. I will check that out. I've got a pretty negative perception of Ben Shapiro, just from the get-go, just because of a lot of his very strong stances on a lot of things that fly in the face of liberalism, and that's okay, and it's just to so adamantly be for or against anything is scary to me. I have a hard time being an ally of somebody who's so fucking sure, because I waver, you know what I mean? Like from day to day, I don't even. So, anyways, I do think that there is value to listening to the other side of the discussion at all times. And if you guys haven't checked out the Joe Rogan Experience, he does a really good job of objectively interviewing somebody that, like Caleb said, he doesn't necessarily agree with everything he says. But I know that I used to love getting stoned and talking conspiracy theory shit with people, man. That was always like super fun to me. So it's weird, like it didn't become irresponsible or dangerous until he got such a huge fucking platform. When did all of these people start like paying attention to conspiracy theories is what I wonder.
Well, and let's remember too, getting high and talk about conspiracy theories was like a lefty thing for a long time.
Yes, absolutely. That's what's it's fascinating.
But like we said, it flip-flops back and forth, and I think it's all fascinating.
So I am caught up on Sharp Objects. I don't think you've been watching it. It's an HBO series with Amy Adams, and actually it stars Sophia Lillis, who is the girl that played Bev in It. And this is mostly noteworthy because now that girl has played the child version of like the two most successful gingers in Hollywood.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's kind of crazy. She's going to be playing Jessica Chastain's, Jessica Chastain's going to be playing adult Bev in It too. So, yeah, I think that girl's going to have a long and illustrious career ahead of her. But, man, Sharp Objects is very, very good. It's very, very dark. And, well, some people think it's a slow burn, I guess. It's about the characters to me. And this shit is just very, very engaging. So, I don't know. Do you have HBO?
I do not. I don't have any cable, or I've been a cord cutter for like 13 years. I remember before even Netflix had streaming, I was downloading stuff.
Yeah. I have the HBO Go app. I don't pay for cable and shit, so I get it directly. But yeah, like everybody's kind of talking about, it gets expensive from my AMC to my Hulu to the Netflix to the fucking Amazon Prime. It's a lot, but HBO's got Game of Thrones, so I'm not compromising that.
I still need to see it.
You do. All right, well, I don't want to spend too much time on it. Anything else you saw that you want to talk about?
I think that's about it. Now I've just been playing video games, really.
So I saw Black Klansman on Friday night, and it was excellent. 2 hours and 20 minutes of you know, very uncomfortable humor and very biting commentary on society, but it worked really well for me. I'm a fan of Spike Lee, and the movie definitely has that, you know, very lyrical and stylized approach that Spike Lee's always used in his movies. And it's like, it's super cool. It fucking oozes with cool. The characters are really good. Topher Grace nails it as David Duke, which, what an interesting thing to take a role of somebody. It's like basically like playing Hitler, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I saw, this is going to go on tangent too, but I saw some, Vincent D'Onofrio tweeted out a thing, I don't know if you saw, he's like, should I play a racist in a movie and all this? I thought that, and I was reading the comments of you know, the split of people are like, no, you shouldn't. Some people are, yes, you can. Now, I'm assuming, without seeing Black Klansman, he plays David Duke, but it does not put him in a positive light. You don't walk away with loving David Duke.
No, clearly.
Yeah, I'd assume.
Well, then that's funny, because like in today's climate, you'd be led to believe that the only person that could play a racist as an actor on the big screen would be a person who's a racist in real life.
No
fucking
shit.
Retarded, Jesus Christ. Anyways, and then I saw on Thursday night, I saw The Meg.
Okay.
It's a megalodon. It was fucking garbage. I kind of liked it because it felt like one of those 1990s kind of summer epic blockbusters, like some shit that Roland Emmerich would make. It's like the Godzilla of shark movies, but it's rated PG-13, and that, you know, Jaws was only rated PG. There's a way to show a shark attack without showing a shark attack that makes it really effective, but what they did in The Meg is a bunch of cutaways. Like, the shark opens its mouth, it's right about to fucking swallow up this surfer, and then it cuts to the next shot, and it's like, it's what you go to a movie like that for, or at least I did. I went in there to watch people get eaten by sharks, and they fucking dropped the ball on the one thing that I cared about going into it. So it wasn't an exploitation movie, man. Did you see Piranha 3D?
I didn't.
It's fun.
That's kind of what I pictured Meg to be like.
That's what it should have been like. And actually, Jason Statham and Turtle Taub, whatever the director's name is, both said that they signed on for an R-rated movie, that they had all of these great bloody kills planned and everything, but they didn't even end up shooting it. So it's not like we're going to get an unrated version or something when it comes out on home video. So, yeah, I don't know, man. It was a drag.
Sounds like studio meddling then.
Yeah. There was a couple fun parts in it. You know, shark movies should be scary, and we're going to talk a little bit more about jump scares here in a little bit. So you want to at least get some tension or some scares out of a movie like this, and for me to not be freaked out by a shark movie is just goes to show that the movie was lacking. So, yeah. I guess that about wraps it up. There's a scene in the trailer of the Meg where it shows all of these people on a beach on fucking inner tubes and stuff. Have you seen that?
Oh, yes, I have. I have. It's in the trailer?
Yeah. It's like the biggest piece of promo.
Yeah.
They really fucked that up. Like, it's about 5 minutes at the end of the movie, and like a bunch of people don't get eaten by sharks. It implies that maybe like 5 or 6 people do, but you don't see it. That thing should have fucking chomp down 100 people in that scene.
Yeah, see, as long as it's one of those movies, if it knows what it is, I'll probably like it. But sometimes if a movie's self-aware and it's horrible, I tend to like those. If it's not self-aware and it's horrible, I don't like them.
I'm curious to know what you think. You're gonna have to let me know when you finally see that one on VOD.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I'm not going to that. I'm not actually paying money to go see that.
So Ruby Rose was in it. We talked a little bit about her last week. She's not good or bad, really, in particular in the Meg. Not like Ronda Rousey and fucking Fast and the Furious bad, but she quit Twitter. We talked about the fact that she got cast as Batwoman. This week, she has quit Twitter, and I know we touch on this kind of shit a lot and shouldn't probably even dive into it for too long, but what is your overall thoughts, not so much about this particular situation, but about actors and actresses and any celebrities getting bullied off Twitter, like to the point they leave?
Twitter mobbing is absolutely ridiculous. You know, it's inexcusable. Now, and specifically about her, I thought that this was a very peculiar thing because this seemed like kind of the joke you made. It seemed like partially fanboyism, but it also seemed partially like identity politics. Like people were saying she wasn't gay enough,
Yeah.
and she isn't Jewish, and I'm like, we need like, I just don't want to live in this world where only a gay person can't play a straight person.
Well, and
I don't want to live.
That was my whole point, man. And you know, just to interject real quick, that's my thing is like, do people really want that to where gay actors are confined to only being able to play gay characters? When you think about the percentage of characters in movies that are actually gay, it's like cutting off fucking 95% of your chances.
Well, and as someone who is very classically liberal, we've had this conversation off camera, pretty classically liberal. I'm a firm believer of like, we're really pretty much all the same. You know, it's about who you are inside that really matters. And you see, this is just, to me, this has to do with fanboy culture, what happened to Ruby Rose, but it has more to do with overarching culture where you're seeing, I don't want to walk down this road where like only a gay person can play a gay person, only a straight person can play a straight person. I don't want to do it, but you're also seeing even on a cultural level, like, oh, you can't speak on, okay, if you're white, you can't speak on issues that affect the black community. I'm like, do you guys really want to go down the path of this? Because then it's going to lead down a path where a black person or a Hispanic person wants to talk about white issues, and we're going to go, well, no, you're not white. You can't speak on this. Well, no, anyone can speak on anything they please. And that's kind of the beauty of our society is we are this melting pot of free ideas and of culture. And I don't know, I just think it's not progressive, it's regressive. And I just think it's a bizarre way of thinking to me.
Yeah, I agree with it. It's like everybody stick to your own. Everybody's got to stay with their own. And
it's like stay in your lane type of thing.
It used to be a prevalently white thing, but now it seems like it's become a lot more socially acceptable for it to be everything but a white thing. But you know, that's a whole different thing. My kind of takeaway from it is, for one thing, 1 million people saying good job doesn't have the impact of 10 people saying bad job, you suck. So I think a lot of times these celebrities, it's like you make an amount of money that I will never see in a lifetime for every project that you take. Suck it the fuck up. If 10% of people want to complain about your race or your gender, you just shut it down. Don't even emotionally engage in something like that, because there's never going to be a 100% consensus on any fucking thing. So to focus on the dissent as opposed to the affirmation, it just seems counterproductive in a lot of ways.
I mean, I've gotten, I'm sure you have too. You're on YouTube. I've gotten shit for YouTube videos. I've gotten shit on Twitter. But the overwhelming majority of people I interact with on Twitter or Facebook or any of the things that are phenomenal. There are a couple of people, and I get it, especially when like I was new to YouTube. When I very first started out, I'd get like, man, one bad comment. I'd be like, what the hell, man? Like, this person hates me and they don't even know me. And then as you kind of get, at least for me, and maybe I just have thicker skin, I get a little desensitized to it. And I don't know, like even on Twitter, I've had some dog piles on Twitter, you know, because a lot of times I'm very dry with my humor and I make jokes.
Sure.
And some people take it a little too serious. I don't know if you saw the exchange I had where we were just making James Gunn jokes the other night.
No.
It was pretty. So IGN tweeted out, James Gunn, what DC movie should James Gunn direct? And I retweeted it and I said, I'm sure he'd love to get his hands on Teen Titans. And
that's good.
Another guy commented and he was like, yeah, I think he would be good at Child's Play. And then I was like, maybe, you know, he wants to do a Christmas movie. He should do, I heard he wants to do The Littlest Orphan. And we were just like going on. This was just a thread of just some random person on Twitter. But like, I don't know where I was going with this, but yeah, no, like it's, I don't know. Twitter can be cool though. Most of the Twitter interactions are awesome.
You're just plugging your Twitter. Everybody go check out Caleb Says Stuff on Twitter. We get it, man.
And dogpile on me, it's okay. Because I will say offensive jokes that will offend you. And well, you can get over it.
So yeah, I got a troll. I know I mentioned it to you on Twitter before we started. This fuckhead, man. Every once in a while, they'll forget about me for like 2 weeks, and then they will consistently find the last video that they disliked. Either they have 2 accounts, or they've just got a ride or die fucking loser buddy that's willing to constantly do it. But it's got to be multiple accounts because it's consistently 2. Sometimes there will be 3, and you know, I think that there is that one person that's just like, fuck this asshole. But for the most part, I don't think the person that's hitting that dislike is even watching them. So you ever dealt with that?
Well, no, I've had people actually comment on me pretty harshly. That's it. But no, I've never had like the random dislike person. But I know a lot of YouTubers who deal with exactly that. It's a weird phenomenon to me.
Yeah, it's a fucking interesting way to spend your time. So, all right, we're going to move away from the Ruby Rose situation and into the China situation. This is a story that I just kind of happened upon today. It doesn't really directly affect the movie industry here in America as of right now, but it looks like there has been a recent crackdown on the amount that celebrities are able to be paid for each individual project that they do. Oh, by the way, I think Batwoman, the character, was actually came out as gay in like a 2006 or 2008 comic, so it wasn't something that goes all the way back to her 60s roots, but it is definitely something that's founded in the comic books. You know, I can see why people do want the representation. That said, it's like, Jesus Christ, it's like people can't even ally hard enough. But anyways, the China...
Well, a person isn't gay enough. That's weird to me.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. So the country's largest studios said they would follow strict pay limits for actors, while new reports revealed that the models, sports stars, and other prominent personalities are also being targeted by investigators. So there's a couple little interesting pieces to take away from this. The first being that there was like a petition that was signed by all sorts of the major studios, so a lot of them had the back of the government, which obviously just means that their budgets get to be smaller for the movies, so they're about that. But it says that actors cannot take home more than 70% of the total pay that goes to the cast, so no one actor can make 70%, and some large percentage of the budget cannot be given specifically to casting. So I guess my question is, what do you think about pulling back on the amount of money and value given to entertainers? Like, let's move it over into our country, and what would the implications of that mean?
So I'm a very much a free market capitalist guy, so ideologically I'm just completely opposed to this. I feel like if someone's able to negotiate a contract for that high because they're in that high demand, then they're absolutely let the market decide. If like people out here, people go, actors are too paid too much. I'm like, then stop watching movies. You could fix that right now. Stop watching movies. Well, I don't want to do that. I love movies. Well, yeah, exactly. And people go, oh, but that's ridiculous. An actor makes millions and a teacher doesn't do this. I'm like, because you don't understand how the economy works. I'm like, because I'm not saying anyone can be a teacher, because I don't want to say that, because I couldn't do it. I'd fucking murder some kids.
Yeah, sure.
But that skill set is more prevalent than being a top-tier actor. Like, you know, that's not or a top-tier basketball player, top-tier musician. Like, there's things that are more rare, therefore making them more valuable. And so I just think it's bizarre. I think it's unhealthy, personally. And I think, I don't know, government intervention in economies doesn't seem to usually end too well. So it's one of those things that I just think is, even though it's just for entertainment purposes, I still am wildly opposed to it.
Yeah, points all well taken. I think, you know, when you said you're a capitalist, it's like, I mean, fundamentally, that's the difference between, you know, being a capitalist country and being a communist country. And you know, you also said it, the market decides. So if we value celebrities above teachers, then celebrities are going to get paid more than teachers. I mean, you hit it on the head. So I personally, I don't hate the idea of it, because like I said, while I do agree with what you said, I feel like it's so outrageous. But then it's like, what are we going to do? We're going to movie past these people where all of a sudden they've been working for $10 million a movie, and now all of a sudden we're going to give them $2 million a movie. That's going to be that's going to be its own set of issues. So I say leave it alone. I do agree with you, but I wouldn't mind seeing any of these people get a little bit less money when it comes down to it. But there's a celebrity named Fan Bingbing. She's a Chinese star, and she's gone dark amid Pay Crackdown. She hadn't made any public appearances or anything in several weeks, and it sounds like she's being investigated for basically the studios will give them a salary set at X amount of dollars. Let's just use $2 million for an example. They give them a salary of $2 million to put on paper, and then they actually pay them $5 million for the project. So a lot of these people have been able to not pay into the system because they haven't been held accountable for what they actually made.
And that's something that's currently going on, or they started doing in reaction to this?
No, this is a part of that same story. It looks like,
okay.
Yeah.
So, now, and I'm not sure how exactly, excuse my ignorance, how China's set up as far as their economy and their taxes and their inner workings of their government.
Yeah.
I'm not quite, so I'm going to speak completely from a place of ignorance, but now that's a different scenario. If she's not claiming stuff and not paying taxes, that's like a tax evasion sort of thing. That's a totally different scenario. And I'm not so far capitalist or so far libertarian that I'm like, no taxes at all.
Right.
I'm not that guy.
Right.
So I do think there's value to that. So that's, to me, entirely different thing.
Yeah. It's just kind of interesting. I don't see it moving over here, but the reason why it actually kind of matters in the greater scheme of things is because China is quickly becoming the leading consumer of entertainment. Like several of the biggest box office movies in the past couple of years have been Chinese productions. So
ironically, if it did ever come over here, it would be like if we started putting, caps on what people can make. Celebrities would be praising it like crazy until it came to their to entertain.
Yeah. As long as it's politicians and not actors and actresses, no problem there.
Or it's a CEO of a company, as long as it's not an actor and actress.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and talk about this Blood Brothers Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles fan film. That's it. That's what we're going to talk about. There's a couple of guys that are putting together a Patreon. They've actually got a Kickstarter, not even Patreon. It's a Kickstarter for a Ninja Turtles live-action fan film called Blood Brothers. The Blood Brothers, probably not being the first ones that you would think of, is in the Ninja Turtles themselves. Nope. This is Rocksteady and motherfucking Bebop portrayed in practical effects, very, very reminiscent of the action figures, and actually a lot of the cast of this movie, as you can see in the graphic here on the screen, is going to be characters that are very reminiscent of their action figure counterparts. Caleb, I mean, even though you're not a huge fan of the original series, do you have any sort of affection for these characters or the action figures?
So first of all, this thing, I don't know if you know this, so I've been familiar with this project for years, because it keeps popping up in Kickstarter, and then it keeps falling off, and then popping back up in Kickstarter and falling off. So this is like the third time it's been, I think, that I've known about it, second or third time, that it hasn't reached a goal. No, but it's so, okay, this is going to be, I'm going to nerd out for Ninja Turtles for a second. The thing that they show of Krang is not Krang, that's an Utrom, that's from the comics. So Krang is that's the silver thing with
I didn't know that. I'm looking, for sure.
Yeah, so that's not Krang, that's an Utrom. That's straight out of the comics, which I love Utrom since I'm a comic book guy. The Fugitoid, also from the comics, huge Fugitoid fan. He might have been in the 87 show. I know he was in the 2013 and the 2012.
I definitely had the action figure of him and Tricerodon.
Yeah. Triceratons, they're from all of the versions, for comics included. So Bebop and Rocksteady are arguably my two most hated Ninja Turtle characters of all time.
Really? They're an invention for the show. I know that much.
Yeah, and even so, it's something that the creators, I believe, I'm not sure Kevin Eastman, I know Peter Laird hates Bebop and Rocksteady, because they were designed to sell action figures, and Bebop and Rocksteady are only cool until you go back and watch this show, or even watch the last movie that they were in, their unbearable.
See, my main connection to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, even more than the show, was being able to play with the action figures. While the show was pretty smooth, streamlined, traditional animation style, the characters in the action figures were dinged up and had all these accessories and scars and cool fucking weapons you could swap out. And like you said, the creators, I'm sure they were a little upset that their merchandise, or that their property was bastardized after they sold it off for $1 billion or whatever. I know it wasn't that much, but
Well, I don't know if you know this. So they were still in charge of the character design. So they actually, a lot of comic book artists who went on to later design the comic book characters, they were just pumping out these characters because they were making so much money. So a lot of them were designed by at least the core creative team.
Interesting. Yeah, and being able to tell your own stories with the action figures. And I was actually looking at the entire set of the Ninja Turtles action figures, and I probably had about 90% of them. I saw this long-necked red dragon character that I didn't recognize, but seriously, all the way down the list, I had all of them. And so what I like about this fan film, I just now showed a little clip of it, is that it very much looks like the action figures. It has a novelty to it. It doesn't look good. Like, the trailer itself looks fucking garbage,
It's one of those things that I've actually thought about putting money into. I've never kickstarted anything, but it's one thing that I've thought about actually doing.
Yeah, I just, what had me the most enthusiastic was literally just looking at the designs of the characters. They're 6 and 7 foot representations of the action figures, and I just think that's badass. The Gator's name was something about the Bayou. What was his name? It was Bayou Gator?
Leatherhead is actually his name.
Yeah, that's right. And he had a little Cajun hat on, even though this version of him doesn't.
Because this version appears to be more based on the comic book, because he's a scientist in the comic. Well, he's a mutated thing, but he's very intelligent in the comic.
Yeah, he looks like a fisherman and shit. The action figure, yeah. I remember now. So yeah. Anyways, I think it's kind of cool. I always like to see people that are enthusiastic about stuff, and this is kind of a cool showcase for these guys' effects studios, if that's what they do.
I think it's actually really cool. Like I said, as someone who hates those two characters, I actually really want to see this still. There is a phenomenal fan film that I would recommend everybody watch of Casey Jones. It's like 30 minutes. It's like a decent chunk of a fan film.
Really?
It's actually surprisingly good.
Damn, it's like Dirty Laundry, right?
Dirty Laundry.
The Punisher fan film?
I've never seen it.
Oh, man. All right, we'll share some links after this. It's a Thomas Jane fan film, actually. It's about 10 minutes long. It's real fucking good. It's kind of like the Truth and Journalism, the Venom short film.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So, well, that's a couple of those things. I wanted to transition over from that into another beloved franchise from my childhood, and that is Puppet Master. There is a new Puppet Master film that is getting released in theaters probably for like 2 fucking days. I think it's probably the first Puppet Master. It is definitely the first Puppet Master to ever get a theatrical release. Back in 1989, a studio by the name of Full Moon Entertainment started producing films. Producer Charles Band, who was actually responsible for the Roger Corman movie Dolls, I think it was Roger Corman movie. Anyways, he, I guess, really got into the killer doll genre because he continued to crank these fuckers out for the better part of 10, 12, even maybe 15 years. I think there's like 6 or 7 Puppet Masters. But anyways, kind of back to the idea that I loved these toys as a kid. I love the designs of the puppets in this series. The first 2 are pretty good. The third one's where they start fighting Nazis, and then it just gets fucking weirder and weirder and weirder from there. Do you have any familiarity with this franchise?
So talk about nostalgia for action figures. I had like almost every Puppet Master action figure.
Did you?
My grandpa would buy me. Yeah, and they used to have a Pinhead where he had like an actual like knitted sweater and his little tiny hat. I love that thing. And then the guy with the knife hand and
Blade.
The hat. Yeah, Blade. But it's one of those things like I watched like the first couple as a kid, like religiously, but I honestly I can't even remember them. It's been that long. I more have nostalgia for the action figures than the actual movies themselves.
Yeah, yeah, I understand. The first Puppet Master, there was like a hotel overlooking this water way up in the New England area, and a group of psychics went into the house to explore some sort of psychic phenomenon because there was a puppet maker named Toulon. I can't remember what his first name is right now. And Andre Toulon, and he died in this place, and they know like some sort of legend about him. And he's got these puppets that ended up getting reanimated. Yeah, it's not good. Again, it's another one of those movies that like, there's a lot of reasons to defend it. I like the fact that they used real puppetry and stop motion and shit, but it definitely didn't age well, and was never really about the story in the first place, more the kills and shit. And I think it's so crazy that they're bringing it back because the writer of it is the guy that wrote Cell Block, Brawl in Cell Block 99. I think his last name is Zerling. He also wrote and directed Bone Tomahawk. He wrote and directed both of those movies, so the guy's got like cred because all of his movies have been fucking really good. Craig Zoller is his name, and he actually didn't direct this Puppet Master, but it stars Thomas Lennon, old Deputy Dangle from Reno 911. And did you by any chance watch the trailer?
I did. I didn't even hear about this until you sent me the docket for today. I was just like, it looks like exactly what I anticipated it to look like. It looks horrible, but in the best possible way. Mm-hmm. It looks self-aware horrible. Like it is just about the spectacle and the ridiculousness.
It does seem to be the first one that has that. I mean, they probably all did. It just doesn't translate that wink and a nod. Like this one you can tell is self-aware. And the gore is way over the top. They have dialed that up to 11, which is not... There were kills in all of them, but they were never so focused on the gore and the practical effects. And they're using all puppetry this time around and all stop motion, no CGI. So all of that sounds fun. Speaking of the designs of these toys, man, what do you think about the new look of Blade in particular?
Yeah, I honestly didn't even realize it was him at first for a second. I was just like, is that him? Because he does look very different from at least what I remember him looking like. Yeah, I thought he looked cool, though. I mean, it's one of those things that, for me, is just in general, even though I just sound like I was fanboying, where I was like, I don't like these characters, but I'm just going to still support Blood Brothers. I'm kind of that person where I don't really get that weird about designs of stuff, like where people freak out about a design. Very rarely will I be like, you know... Because to me, a design's literally from everything I've just said. I'm not into physical attributes, both in like real life or in movies. I'm like, it's a physical attribute. If like that doesn't really matter unless it is a horror film. You know, this one case scenario, I guess it could because it changes it. But to me, it's like, well, how is it executed? You can have a great character design in a horrible movie. It doesn't, you know?
Yeah, I'm very much in the... I agree, like, when it comes to, you know, physical attributes, I think it's quite a different scenario than when it comes to designing, like, your comic book characters or your, you know, bad guys for movies. If it's a monster, if it's an alien, all of that kind of stuff. Because I do a little bit of illustrating. Like, I'm not that good, but I do a little bit of illustration and stuff, and... I've just always really responded to that part of it, and also like monster makeup in general. I always really enjoyed watching horror films as a kid. Yeah, Face Off is good. Face Off is good. I've met a couple of the guys that were winners of that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, absolutely. The special effects guy that did the Gremlins fan film. I actually talked to the director of that as well as the effects guy. I think his name was Eric Fox. I think. Nice dude. He's got like a 420 smoke session live stream on Facebook every day where him and his buddy are just getting high, and his buddy's like filming him on his camera phone, and guys in his workshop building monsters. It's fucking fantastic to watch, you know?
Yeah, that sounds like an interesting something I would actually watch.
It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. It's very non-formal and just... It's pretty neat. But yeah, so I'm interested in seeing Puppet Master the Littlest Reich. Ironically, like the first 2 or 3 reviews that I happen to look at say that it's pretty heavy in social commentary, which is awesome. Again, not what you would expect out of a movie like that.
Everything's social commentary now. I think I mean, look, we brought up politics like every time we've talked on the show because it's so infused in everything now.
Yeah, 100%. I do subscribe to the fact that art has always been, some sort of statement. A lot of times political, other times, but artists were commissioned by the Roman Catholic Church for a long time, so there's always been a very close relationship between politics and art. And even though some people hate the idea of having, really heavy political messages in entertainment, what do you think about that, man?
I'm kind of torn on it. I think not everything needs to have a political message, but I'm not opposed to it. And I'm also one of those people because I just love ideas. I mean, I was talking about listening to people I disagree with, how I love that stuff. So I even like watching movies that take a political ideology that I necessarily don't agree with, or something like that, a stance I don't agree with, because I still think it's phenomenal, and I still think there's value to opinions, unless your opinion's like you're a racist, like you're a white supremacist. There's no value to your opinion. I think you still have a right to say it, but we have a right to say you're an idiot, and that holds no value.
Yeah, I like that. The idea of self-policing society.
Yeah. So I do think, I just think it's phenomenal. Yeah, I think there's always been politics and art and politics. Not everything needs to be political, but I think it's up to we let the market figure it out, and we let the artist decide. If the artist makes something that we feel like has artistic merit, the society will decide for us.
Yeah, I 100% agree. The old adage, there's a time and a place for everything, and that is 100% true. Sometimes I go to the movies to escape. Other times I go to the movies to learn something or to feel something. I mean, there's a lot of different things that will drive audiences, and your drive may be different than mine. That makes us end up watching these movies in the first place. So, personally, I love a message movie. And I also love a not message movie,
I feel like we've lived this thing now where, despite being a message, there's the other side of it where we're like, we can't offend anyone. We can't have a message that's going to put off liberals. We can't have a message that's going to put off conservatives. We can't have a message that's going to do this. So, and you end up with this milquetoast, like, art sometimes is best when it's daring, and sometimes that's offensive, and sometimes it'll be offensive to you who's watching it. I mean, one of the greatest political satire shows, for my opinion, is South Park, and it's absolutely brilliant, and it offends everyone.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And Jerry Seinfeld's got a pretty strong stance on the fact that comedy should be able to be, whatever, like nothing should be off limits, and I couldn't agree more.
I agree.
So, speaking of things being off limits, we're going to go ahead and move on to the thing that kicks off the main topic of tonight, and that was, there was a trailer for The Nun, which is the Conjuring spinoff. First of all, I saw the trailer for it at the Meg the other night. It scared the fuck out of the audience. Like, I've never seen a trailer have a reaction like that out of the audience. And part of me was like, that was bloody brilliant, but then I saw it again the next night at the theater, and I was like, oh my god, it's just so loud. It's the fucking sound that gets you, But anyways, this isn't that.
The YouTube one?
No. This is a teaser trailer. So the teaser trailer the little video that we're talking about, the viral video, is like one of those almost trailer before a trailer, little snippets of an ad that was about 7 seconds long, and it kind of looked like the volume on your phone, like your screen was loading and that the volume was being turned down, and then all of a sudden, and the fucking nun comes popping up out of nowhere. Fun little promotion. However, people on Twitter either ironically or dead seriously were super upset about it and scared about it, and enough outrage happened that the studio ended up pulling it from the internet, or at least from YouTube. And my immediate response is to just be like, you tits. But at the same time, am I missing another side of it?
Well, I think you'd have to be a complete pussy to see the other side. So I don't know. I don't get it. In fact, as far as a marketing standpoint, I'm sure they are super happy YouTube pulled this ad, because I think this has gotten it more probably hype than the actual ad itself would have gotten.
That's a real good point, man.
Yeah, I would be, if I were the company right now, the marketing firm, I'd be like, we did it. This, because I went and I actually, because I hadn't seen the ad, I searched the ad on YouTube and I could find the ad on YouTube someone uploaded.
Yes.
So like I actually saw it, which is something I would just skip it on YouTube, you know, as soon as it popped up. Or if it wouldn't have, I usually just like don't pay attention. So that being said, I guess, you know, YouTube does have terms and conditions. It is a private company, you know, it's obviously, they're allowed to do what they want and remove what content they want, as much as I, in principle, sometimes disagree with it. They're allowed to. So, but honestly, it's the best thing that could have happened for this commercial.
Yeah, it's a really good point, and you bring up another good point. And I don't want to talk out the side of my mouth, because there have been times where I said it's a private business. They should be able to make the decision they want to, and it's Disney, when it's ABC or whatever. So yes, it has to be across the board. YouTube does clearly have terms and conditions that state that nothing should be there to startle or shock people. So it clearly did violate those terms. Somebody blew the whistle. There is supposed to be targeted marketing on Facebook, where the ads that you receive are ads that would cater to your, you know, you as a consumer. So the one thing oh, please.
I was gonna say, if anybody doesn't know too, you can go into your YouTube settings and you can turn off what ads you don't want to see. You can be like, horror movies, nope, and click it off.
Yeah, that's another. Yeah, I don't think people are aware of all of the actual settings, because I haven't bothered to go in. But I mean, do you think that parents or children would have a valid case to why that shouldn't be there?
I could see the whole parents thing. I mean, if it popped up on like a little beginning of a kid's video, you know, it's like some kids thing, then yeah, I could see that valid complaint. But at the end of the day, this is, and again, I'm a huge personal responsibility person. I understand you can't always monitor what your kids are doing, obviously. But you know, it is your job to monitor. Yeah. You know, like it really is.
Yeah, just like where do you draw the line now? What, now all of a sudden horror movie trailers can't be fucking scary? Is that what people are saying? You know what I mean?
Well, this goes into what we're saying. Yeah, you can't offend anyone. You can't offend anyone, because, and which is a catch-22, because every stance will offend someone.
Yes.
You and me have both said like 50,000 offensive things to people.
Yeah.
You know, we've probably offended certain people, and this literally, like, I'm one of those people, I will just say genuinely how I feel about things, which will offend one person, and then the other person will agree with me, and I'll get 5 minutes later in the conversation, those will flip because I have a different opinion that doesn't fall into certain things. I'm like, everything's offensive. Everything. If you literally cannot find one thing that isn't offensive to someone on the planet.
So, I mean, what is your general stance on, I know, you know, broad strokes here, what is your general stance on jump scares? Do they work for you, or do they miss you every time?
No, they hit sometimes. I'm not a big, like, so I love horror films. I don't know if I've really ever been scared in a horror film. Like, maybe I grew up watching too much of them, but I think jump scares are kind of like made fun of almost anymore, but I'm like, you can properly do jump scares to pull, you know, to make you jump pretty heavily.
Yeah, I don't get that. It seems like it's very in vogue to just straight up shit on the jump scare, and I did say, you know, it's the loud noise, I think, that gets the more emotional response, or you get more terrified, you know, like a visceral physical response to the shocking sound of it. But yeah, I mean, those are sometimes the most fun part of horror movies. It's like there's this mounting of tension, and then boom, the action happens, and then there's the release afterwards, where the audience will kind of shift in their seat, or they'll chuckle a little bit because everybody just in unison jumped up out of their chairs. And I'm somebody who, like, when I watch movies, I'm very locked into movies, and I love horror movies. I've watched them forever. I do agree that it's difficult to find, especially a supernatural horror movie that scares me, but, you know, growing up, I saw plenty of movies that fucking freaked me out, and I kind of wanted to talk to you about some of the movies over the years that have had a lasting impact, or something that, you know, just kind of stuck in your head from just any movie, mostly horror films. If there's any that are kind of out of the box, we can talk about those too, but I wanted to kick it off with a remake of a Japanese film It takes place in a closet when Naomi Campbell or Naomi.
I do. As soon as you said the closet, I know exactly the scene.
Oh, it's horrifying. Naomi Watts. It's in the ring. She opens up a closet and finds the corpse of the girl from the very beginning of the film. And it's just the makeup of her, the way that her body's kind of contorted and looks fucking shoved into the corner of it. It's an image that really did instantly get burned into my mind, and I think it's pretty iconic. What do you think about that one?
So correct me if I'm wrong, it's been years since I've seen this movie. But if I remember properly, it's a very interesting jump scare in the way it's shot, because isn't she like telling a story about how she found a body?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, and normally you would actually see the scene leading up to her, and if I remember, like, it's like she's telling the story, and then it just jumps cut to the image and jumps cuts back, which I think is actually really cool, because I can't recall of a lot of other movies that do that.
Yeah, I didn't even really think about it like that, as opposed to that suspense that we're talking about. It's almost just more of a shock. It does, I think, as she's telling the story, it's kind of showing...
Cutting back and forth, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Again, I agree with you. I mean, it's been a long time since I've seen it, but there's a couple other good scares in the ring. Obviously Samara or whatever coming out of the TV at the end, but that I don't know. There was just none that were more effective to me in that particular film. So I'll pass it off to you, man. What's one you want to talk about?
So, just in general, I think M. Night Shyamalan is actually underrated as far as his jump scare.
Ooh,
I think
this is a good one.
Yeah, so I have two from him, but we'll get to the first one. I know you know which one I'm talking about. It's obviously Sixth Sense, the scene where he's under the covers, and he's sitting there, and he turns around the light, and there's the girl vomiting.
Mm-hmm.
That is one of those scenes. I remember watching that when I was younger in theater and jumping. Like, that was one of the few ones in a movie theater that actually made me jump. And it's kind of cool because it's not really it's not like a monster or anything, but it's a very disturbing image.
Yeah.
Like, it's nothing out of the ordinary, but it is out of the ordinary. It's just kind of interesting.
So I'm not gonna step on your toes, but this next one's from Signs, right?
Oh no, that's a good one. I have another one.
Okay, what you got?
I got The Visit. Because that movie, I think it was him who directed it, right?
Yeah.
Footage movie,
Yeah.
The Visit. Yeah, okay. That one for me was like his return to solid horror. There's a couple of scenes in it. There's the go to bed scene where she's like walking around the house, she runs up. But there's also the Yahtzee scene where like she starts eating the cookies and goes Yahtzee.
Yeah.
That made me jump.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
And then the crawling underneath the basement scene is phenomenal. That's my favorite jump scare.
Really well done. Really well done.
Yeah.
It keeps you off balance because you don't know. Through the whole movie, you just don't know.
And because that character is so up and down and so psychotic, it naturally builds into the weird timing, because that movie has the weirdest timing as far as the build goes, because like it'll feel like it's in that full build and they'll do halfway, or it'll feel like it's a full build and you're like, oh, nothing's gonna happen, and then it'll go full build again, nothing's gonna happen. Like, he plays, his timing in that movie in particular is phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are good ones. Kind of stick in the found footage genre. One that comes to my mind is, obviously, I can touch real quick on the ending of the Blair Witch Project when she finds Mike down in the corner staring at the wall. That's a pretty good one. But the one that really, out of this genre, that really fucking got me was when Katie is laying in bed in Paranormal Activity, and the fucking demon grabs her by the leg and snatches her off the bed. Oh my god, that scene fucking terrified me, dude.
I've never seen a Paranormal Activity.
Really?
No, so I should probably check it out.
It's a horror film built on jump scares, because the entire thing is security camera footage, nothing happening for a 5-minute stretch, and then all of a sudden, and everybody jumps. And it's fun in the theater, you know?
Found footage movies work really, really well with jump scares. I think because of the camera work is you can do that. You can either stay on a static image for so long that when something jumps out, it's unexpected, but you also can do frantic panning and pan past something and pan back and do loud music. That found footage works really well.
Yeah, that's a good point, especially like when the camera is whipping from one direction to the other and you get that quick image of something where you're like, what the fuck? But you just now triggered one in my mind. There's a movie called Lake Mungo. Did you see it?
I've never even heard of it.
Very small Australian film. I think you will like it. I don't want to oversell it, but it's like a mix between a documentary, like it's shot like a documentary. It's obviously a mockumentary, but where there's people discussing this strange, mysterious case about a daughter that went missing of this family. And it's really interesting the way they play with the narrative. Some of it will be surveillance footage, some of it will be footage from her camera, but the reason why it's all edited together is because it was actually given to a film crew to make a movie out of it, so the found footage element of it works a lot better. But anyways, slow burn, very methodically paced, and at the very, very ending is one of the scariest and most unsettling jump scares I've ever seen. So check that one out. But what else you got, man?
Definitely. So I'm gonna go to one that I'm sure I'm gonna beat you to it because I'm sure it's on your list. The Alien, the first Ridley Scott Alien film.
Mm-hmm.
There's 2 scenes in it. Obviously, chest burster scene.
Fantastic.
Fantastic. I mean, even she's shocked by the blood splatter because it wasn't intended, which adds to it. But there's one for me that always made me jump more is when he's crawling through the air ducts and he has his flamethrower, and it's the guy with the beard. I cannot remember his name, but he's crawling through the air ducts. And he turns, and you see the alien. It reaches out to grab him in that weird pose, and it does that loud music, that loud noise. I don't even know if it's music.
Yeah.
That is brilliant, top tier jump scare for me.
It really is. His name's Dallas, and the way that they play with the way they play with the tracker. That was they kind of used that same template in Aliens, but it works very well that time. And to tell you the truth, I didn't even think about those, man, but those are both extremely iconic and well directed. Aliens, just another movie with exceptional pacing, and it does a good job about hitting you at a couple moments where you're just like, what just happened,
Yeah, the timing was unreal.
I want to kind of connect with you on some of these. I don't even know how many of them that you've seen. Did you see Annabelle Creation?
I've not seen any of the
Conjuring movies.
Conjuring, yes. I always get those confused with Insidious. I've not seen a single Conjuring film.
You told me that, and I must have repressed it because I ain't happy about it. No, I'm just joking. They're good, man. They're all pretty good.
James Wan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Insidious too, man. That guy just dominates the horror space. So, they're the guys.
I have Insidious, and I do like the Insidious film.
Lee Wanell and James Wan, the guys behind Insidious, actually. Lee Wanell went on to direct Upgrade, so his career is kind of moving forward.
Speaking of that, Insidious has that one good jump scare. The red face demon guy.
Yeah, Darth Maul.
Yeah, exactly.
Fuck Solo. This is the original Darth Maul cameo.
Yeah, that's a good jump scare. That movie in general has a couple of good jump scares.
So yeah, for the listeners, there's the clap in The Conjuring, and there's also the Valak nun painting in The Conjuring too. That's also a good jump scare. What about Large Marge from Pee-wee's Big Adventure?
Pee-wee's Big Adventure. I don't even remember it. It's been that long since I've seen it.
Tell them Large Marge sent ya. Ah, man, it's fucking silly. Well, because obviously it's not a horror movie. It literally comes out of nowhere. She's in the middle of this story about it was a stormy night, and then she goes in to tell about a crash that happens, and Pee-wee's hitchhiking. He's in this truck with this female truck driver, and just out of nowhere, you find out that she's a ghost. She turns her face and screams, and it turns into this really Tim Burton-y looking stop motion clay figure. It's one I saw as a kid.
Sometimes those movies where it's not a horror film, those are the best jump scares because they are really unexpected.
Yeah. So those, let me see. I know you've seen Fellowship of the Ring. What about when Bilbo gets all precious about the ring?
That's a perfect one. Yeah, that is a pretty good jump scare where his because don't they actually change his face?
Oh yeah.
He actually CG on his face, he has sharp teeth and stuff.
Uh-huh.
If I remember right. Yeah, that's a good one. Another one I'm trying to think. Oh, is a one that you've seen, a small jump scare that really got to me. Is Audition, the plastic bag where it moves, the trash bag.
Yes.
Very small one, but it made me jump because I'm so engaged in that movie that like I was just glued to the screen that that little movement made me jump.
Yeah, and it kind of splits the difference between being unbearable fucking tension and suspense and then the jump scare, and then it disturbs you on a deeper level even past that. You've got your suspense, you've got the thing that's supposed to release the tension, and all of a sudden it throws you into a world of what the fuck? Like, what am I watching all of a sudden, you know?
That to me is that's talk about a scene that will stay with me forever. That's one of them.
Yeah, it's a very good one. Let's see. Have you ever seen Mulholland Drive, the David Lynch movie?
Yes, I think I know which one you're going to be talking about.
The Dirty Hobo?
Yes. I remember, doesn't the guy like really cheesily pass out after he sees it?
Yeah.
The actor?
Yeah, he does.
Okay. Okay.
You just got to take the good with the bad. Not good with the bad, but David Lynch's movies are also goddamn weird.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I like David Lynch because he is who he is.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Twin Peaks Season 1, one of my favorite shows. I loved Lost Highway, the one with Marilyn Manson, and Trent Reznor did the soundtrack for it. Came out in the 90s.
Lost Highway's really.
Oh, you saw it. Okay, yeah, that was the first one that kind of got me into his stuff.
That's a solid film. I like it. I liked it better than Mulholland Drive. Mulholland Drive didn't connect for me.
For you guys, I'd mentioned that I was going to throw a couple of shark movies in here. Jaws, obviously, the attack at the beginning kind of lets you know the stakes of the movie and that they're not going to pull punches when it comes to the shark attacks. I really thought that was an effective scene. A lot of people think that when Bruce the shark reveals himself when Roy Schneider's character is chumming off the back of the boat, to me, that's what kills the suspense of Jaws. Like, from that moment forward, the movie's not scary anymore.
I would agree. And ironically, I think the best jump scare in Jaws is not even with Jaws. It's the where he's underwater and he's, like, looking through that boat.
Yes.
And the head pops out.
Yes.
That, to me, is my favorite jump scare in Jaws.
Very good one. Very good one. This is a movie that is criminally underrated. It's underseen. It's underappreciated, at least to me. Maybe I do have a more primal fear of sharks than other people do. I don't know why. Maybe seeing Jaws when I did as a kid. But 47 Meters Down is a fucking terrifying movie. It sits at about a 50% on Rotten Tomatoes, which to me actually a lot of times is more intriguing, you know, than a movie with a 95% that everybody loved. But it's more of an exercise in being scary than it is a movie. There's not much of a story to speak of, not a lot of character development, but there are like three. I mean, you can take your pick. There are like 3 jump scare scenes in this movie that. Like, Victoria was sleeping in bed next to me, and I think I woke her up 3 times just from the shock of the bed. You know what I mean? So, yeah, that was one that got me.
Is this the one where they get stuck? Because I didn't see it. Is this the one where they get stuck in the shark tank that they're down there that, like, breaks and it falls?
That's exactly what it is. It's 2 sisters. One of them is Mandy Moore and Claire Holt, and they are vacationing in Mexico. The cage falls off, yeah.
It's one of those ones. It is criminally underseen. I haven't seen it. It looked awesome, and I never got around to it. It kind of reminds me of probably another movie that's criminally underseen. I don't know if you ever saw. I believe it's called Frozen, where they get stuck on the chairlift for skiing.
I've seen the cover of it.
It's phenomenal. It's another movie that is all about just building tension, you know, and kind of like, what do you do in this? And there's no real jump scares, but just speaking of like. If you like 47 Meters and that's the vibe I got from it, you probably like this too.
Yeah, I have actually been wanting to watch it for quite some time, and it's directed by none other than Adam Green, who I know did a couple of the VHS segments. He made a movie called Spiral and Hatchet and Coffee and Donuts. He's done a handful, all of the Hatchet movies. But anyways, he's a kind of big guy in the horror sphere, and that's one that I wanted to check out, so I will have to give that one a watch. Guys that are listening or watching right now, we really appreciate you stopping by to check out this edition of the podcast. I know that we ran just a minute over, but we're having a good time here. If you got any ideas about some some jump scares that you found very effective, let us know down in the comment section. We'd love to hear from you. Make sure that you are following Caleb Says Stuff over on Twitter, as well as Jeremy B. Terrible, also on Twitter. And if you enjoyed this video, do me a favor, take just a second to click that little thumbs up button right there. And if you are a troll, do me a favor, go ahead and click that thumbs down button, because you're gonna do it anyways. And until next time, on behalf of me and Caleb,